I wanted to be a doctor, which is very weird. Sounds very different from what I do now. So I wanted
No,
to be a
actually,
doctor.
you look like a doctor. Your presence, your everything.
I don't know. I mean, I was a biology student, but I ended up being an architect. But I think being an architect has opened up different avenues.
Weirdest client request ever you have got.
Oh, lots of them. You get it like free mein kar do. That's the weirdest. Second weirdest request I would still say is सबसे अलग चाहिए लेकिन ऐसा पहले हुआ होना चाहिए. Yes, those kind of moments happen when you are at the site. Those kind of moments happen when you are with the fabricator trying to solve a problem. I know people hate Mumbai's architecture, but I still see a different kind of opportunities in Mumbai. London is my favorite city because that's where I sort of evolved.
Next is 3D printing, CNC machines, or laser cutting. Which one is your favorite child?
CNC milling, I would say, because it has a lot of possibilities of what we can do with it at scale.
So your go-to snack while brainstorming any projects or any complex designs?
The subconscious mind gets fed from experiences. I am very, very focused on photography. I've been pursuing photography for almost 20 years now.
Oh.
And I have done different sorts of photography, and not many people know about this, by the way.
Hi everyone, welcome to Nexabuild Podcast. If you are looking for something extraordinary insights, our guest none other than Architect Sushant Verma. He is the one of the biggest and the best architects in Delhi. So welcome Sushant. You are here as I described you here as a design entrepreneur and educator, and you are a technological wizard. Perfect. So but how would you describe to someone who don't know about constitutional designs?
So I'm an architect, an educator, and a design technologist. That's pretty much how I define myself. I actually wear many hats. I sometimes try to introspect as well. I'm 100 personalities in a single person, trying to navigate all of them in one go. So that's pretty much what I do. Sort of a design entrepreneur now, trying to sort of create different verticals around design technology. And everything sort of is interconnected with what we do. As an architect, as a designer, so we run this studio called RATLAB Studio, where RAT stands for Research in Architecture and Technology, which is pretty much the core of our practice actually. Because when it started, it's actually based out of understanding how a design research needs to be carried out and through the means of technology. And that pretty much became the crux of the practice. And we're working towards creating innovative spaces and creating iconic designs of different scales. As an educator, of course, I'm been running a couple of programs for the last 10 years or so. We've trained more than 5,000 architects and designers in the last 10 years. Have had global visiting schools conducted in 6 different countries. In about, 35 cities across India. We've carried out workshops over a period of time, and also running a 6-month program, hybrid program called Smart Labs, where we train architects who are wanting to take up computational design as their main core expertise in future. That's the crux of things what we're doing.
It's amazing. A big intro ever I have ever get. Great. From the Architectural Association to Zaha Hadid Architects, and now you are a founder of RATLAB. So what is it seems like your journey is like a Bollywood script. It sounds like a Bollywood script. So was there any particular project or any particular memorable moment that you think that is what I mean for it to be?
So, like I said earlier, research and technology sort of are the foundation pillars of our studio and our practice and our own ideology as well. So how it started was 2012, I met Pradeep, who's my partner. So we were doing a master's at the AA. We were studying immersion technologies and design in 2011, basically. And pretty much at that time, we decided that we want to create a research group. It was not a studio, it was not a firm, it was not an organization, but we were very interested to create a group where we can sort of have a collective of different people from different nationalities, different backgrounds, and do a bit of research about technology and see how it can actually change the design profession in a positive manner. So that's pretty much when where the journey started. While we were doing our final thesis at the AA, and we started to take up a lot of competitions that time. We started to take up a lot of small little projects of research, and we were trying to sort of build a foundation for us to understand more about technology. At the same time, and while we were doing our masters, we realized that okay, we need to really dig in a little deep about design and technology and do a bit of more research about it. That's pretty much when RATLAB started. And I remember me and Pradeep were at 16 Marble Street, which again, people from the AA would recognize what 16 Marble Street is. That's the street right behind AA. Okay. And that's where people used to take a little break. And me and Pradeep were sitting and brainstorming. We were very frustrated that time, by the way. We were absolutely frustrated that time that, what we're trying to do, nobody's able to understand. And why doesn't this happen in India? All our conversations, what we sort of figured out was around why doesn't it happen in our country? Why don't we have conversations like we have over here at the AA, in London, in different conferences that we were exposed to that time? Why are we not having these discussions in India? So that sort of seeded into our minds that time. And we started to coin the name of the organization. And we were like, okay, let's just finalize a name, go back to the studio, design a logo, which still is the same, by the way, and get done with it and just move on with it, which is exactly what we did. The only thing that changed was green was red, and it was black, red, and white at that time. Probably we were younger, so we were more vibrant and stuff, but then it turned into green, also to do with the kind of practice that we have now, more towards sustainability in some way or the other. Going back to what happened at that time, right after that, so we started RATLAB, we did a couple of competitions, we started to collaborate with people, do our own work and our own projects, just to build and understand what we can do with technology while we were also learning and building our expertise. Right after we graduated from the AA, we had a short period of time for either chilling and then getting your visa ended and then moving back to our respective countries, or do something productive, which me and Pradeep, both of us actually managed to secure an internship at a robotics company, an architectural robotics company, which is very different from what we typically do. We would typically go to an architectural organization to start to learn. So that was a very interesting phase for us, because we delved into how to actually control a robotic arm. They also had a CNC machine, which we started to operate. So we were like the operators of the machine, by the way. So we were actually understanding how to open the router and how to actually fix the machine, how to understand the XYZ coordinate, etc. And then working with the robotic arm, which was pretty cool sci-fi for us that time. The firm is called Roverfold. It was a fantastic firm. And right after that, I was fortunate enough to get into Zaha Hadid Architects as an architectural designer. And that's where my journey started at Zaha as well, wherein I was exposed to a different world altogether. I was exposed to a different kind of people altogether. I think the best of the best people were there. And just to absorb the fact that I managed to be a part of that was a big honor at that time. But that also came with a lot of pressure and responsibility, which means I also realized that I need to continue to scale up. And that's pretty much where my journey at Zaha was there. At that time, it looked like I was getting to work on a variety of projects, from one competition to the other, from one project to the other, in a short span of time, I would say. So I was fortunate to work with different kind of people. And at the same time, we won an award which allowed us to move to Los Angeles to do an art and architectural residency, where 4 artists/architects are selected from across the world through a competition to be a part of a 6-month journey. And we were given a house in LA. And we were living with filmmakers, artists, and we were the architects, basically. So the residency was for artists and filmmakers and also architects. So that is the time where we actually started to build RATLAB in its whole essence of develop the team, start to collaborate with people, speaking to a lot of people in India, because somewhere down the line we knew that eventually we'll be moving to the Indian ecosystem, I would say.
Got it.
So right after, we did our projects in Los Angeles. We were at the Mac residency, which we were awarded. There was a lot of drama that happened with all the visa situation and everything, going from UK to US. And then how do I move back to, I'd taken a sabbatical at ZHA that time. And how do I move back to UK? The visa rules did not allow me to go back immediately. I had to be back to India, chill for another 6 months, which could not happen. And that's where RATLAB actually started in India. Before that happened, me and Pradeep had a very interesting conversation which still resonates with me. We were in New York. Again, we had presented our work in an exhibition in New York. So while we were in LA, we presented our work in San Francisco, met a lot of investors. We were in the Bay Area basically.
All right.
And we were developing a facade system which could automatically move by itself without using any energy. It used a different material which nobody has heard of. It's called nitinol. It's a nickel, nitinol. It's a nickel and titanium alloy. So it's an alloy with nickel and titanium. When you pass electric current, a very low wattage electric current, or heat through it, heat which you can actually use from the sunlight, it will start to change shape. So what we used in our project in LA as well, we use nitinol as springs in a tensegrity system, which is a typical structural system of a lot of tension members and compression members. And as soon as the sun hits it, it starts to change shape. And the idea is that the change of shape should be programmed in a manner that it controls the amount of heat and light inside the building. That's how our journey started about interest in facades. And right after that, so we were presenting that project in San Francisco, in LA and New York. New York was our last destination. That's when me and Pradeep had this talk that I told him that, dude, I have to go back to India. And if I'm going back to India, if I'm not going back to UK, I need to set up the studio there or do something about RATLAB in India. And the only question and resistance that we spoke to each other was that, will people even understand what technologies are in India? Nobody has heard about parametric, nobody has heard about computational design. And we took it as a challenge on us and said, okay, if I'm going back to India from here, I'm definitely going to get this started.
All right.
Pradeep had his own journey. He had gotten a job of working as a robotier in China and also in Germany, which he was going to pursue. So it was all a remote kind of a cloud-based setup, I would say, at that time. And that's pretty much how RATLAB's journey started.
Superb. A big intro of RATLAB. So your research part is completed in US only, US and UK only. You have completed.
That's the foundation, I would say.
Great. So as the RATLAB is defined research in architecture and technology, so what makes you here in India to start this journey?
Right. So I think there was a challenging point. It was a challenge that we sort of took on ourselves that we have to educate people first. So that's how it started. We have to educate people first. We have to create an awareness about the subject, what we're talking about. Otherwise, there's not going to be a discourse or a dialogue. We need an ecosystem first. So how do you generate an ecosystem around you? That's something which you can't do overnight, which is not something you can do with just a few projects. It is something which has to be done over a transitional period of time and it has to evolve. So our evolution at that time, and obviously you can't predict the journey as well, but our starting point at that time was that let's start an education vertical and try to train people, train students, train architects, interior designers, get them onto work with technology. Let's expose them to technology. Let's try to be a part of a conference where we can talk about design technology and make people aware about it. It's going to be a slow process. It will require a lot of patience and perseverance, but let's get to that. So that's where RATLAB Education was born. So we created a separate entity as RATLAB Education, where we started to do small little workshops of 6 people, 8 people, 10 people, and just started to test waters and understand if they are able to understand about design technology, about parametric design. And because of our experience in the education at the AA, we were also feeling that we have a knack for teaching as well. We have a knack of sharing our knowledge in a systematic manner, which is what I started to pursue myself. that, okay, I'm going to be teaching people about design technologies and teach people about parametric design. And I remember the first workshop that we designed, I remember writing that this is not a software workshop. And I still say that to all my students at the first day, it's not a software workshop. You know, because one might say, okay, because that's the mentality in India that we have. Okay, you're teaching computational design. What are you going to learn? Rhino, Grasshopper, these are the typical tools that we used to use that time. So is it a Grasshopper workshop? And we should tell people, no, it's not a Grasshopper workshop. 90% of the times, we will be teaching you through Grasshopper. But what we're trying to teach you is the rest of the 10%, which is understanding and having a computational mindset. How to break down complexity into simple parts. So I call this as breaking complexity, which is where you break down complex issues into smaller parts. And that's the approach that we took in teaching as well. Started to do workshops, modules, created awareness. And fortunately, we were fortunate enough to be sort of recognized at that time. Social media had just started, honestly. Like today, we have so many channels of social media. At that time, we were just, we were there on Instagram, for example. We were there on Facebook. So we started to create awareness. We started to put our work out, talk about it. People actually drew interest. We used to be, speaking to a lot of students, went to a lot of colleges. And that's when we started to realize this needs to scale up, not in the sense of business, but in terms of the awareness. That we are teaching, addressing 5 people, 10 people, 20 people. How do we scale that up? And so that is the time we decided we launched a program called Filling the Void. This was in 2015, so 10 years back. And the idea just came in over a cup of coffee. And I remember, which was in a cafe very close by, the idea actually came, I have to give credits also. The idea came when I was speaking to my wife. Now my wife, that time she was not my wife. But she just had come over and I just stepped away for a coffee and I just started to talk about it, that how do we build a larger impact and stuff. And, it just came during that conversation. And I just asked her, can you come to my studio and have a discussion with my team also? Because I just want to talk about this idea with the team and make sure that we don't lose this energy that we have right now. I came back at a small team of 5 people that time and we just spoke to them that how do we reach out to 100 students, let's say, to start with. Because we're reaching out to 6 people, 10 people. And that's when we thought, okay, let's pick 5 cities. We will do a computational design tour. We named it Filling the Void. We designed the logo and everything on that evening itself. Next day, we were calling all the colleges and a lot of students that we knew of, that do you want to learn this? Do you want to learn this? We started to speak to colleges. Can you host a workshop? So we did a workshop in Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, Chandigarh and Delhi. So it was a 25-day tour which I took. And so I went to one city, spent 3 days of teaching in the workshop, spent another 1 or 1.5 day to meet architects in those cities, moved to another city, did the same thing, moved to another city, 20-25 days. In between, I came back to Delhi for 2 days, got engaged and went back to another city. That was a part of the tour. And yeah, that was my journey of initiating the discourse of computational design in India, which I think was the foundation of what we have right now in the industry, I believe.
It means you have founded the term computational tools.
I mean, I won't say we've sort of founded it, but yeah, we did advocate that in a strong manner. And in fact, I know a lot of people who are friends from the industry who have been doing that before us as well. It's not like we were the first ones to sort of use these technologies, I would say. But yes, we had our own personal mission of how do we spread the knowledge to create awareness, how to create a larger impact so that maybe 5 years or 10 years down the line, the industry understands about these things. And thankfully it does now because of the pace of evolution of technology. And I guess that's how the education bit started, which transpired into different directions also.
You describe about the computational tool. So this tool is basically for normal architects who are pursuing the B.Arch, or what are you saying about this? Who can join this?
So basically, okay, I'll talk about what we used to do that time, 10 years back when we started RATLAB education. We were open to educating people from the architectural background and interior design background because they have a basic understanding of spatial design basically.
Okay.
So it was not for all sorts of designers, like not communication or graphic or something like that, but specifically for architects and interior designers. That's what we started as. Our first initial set of students were final year students or a few recent graduates.
Okay.
We even had some professionals like who had 10 years of experience but wanted to skill up and learn computational design. So that's pretty much what our focus audience was at that time. But our bigger goal was to create awareness, basically. So obviously at that time we did not think that we'll have very old professionals as well. But over the journey, I think the age limit, if I talk about, we've had students who are 18-year-olds to 55-year-olds.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe more than 55. I mean, I don't want to talk about their age or never ask them. But yes, our participants of different programs and workshops have been senior professionals as well, who were open enough to the idea of skilling up. Now, when we say skilling up, it is about teaching computational design. Now, computational design is a methodology of designing or how you approach design or even complex problems, to break it down into simple things. It is not rocket science in terms of that is very different from architecture. And I think 10 years down the line, we've realized that it's become a part of design, it's become part of architecture. There are many practices who are sort of leveraging these tools and technologies for their projects. And that's pretty much the ecosystem that we dreamt of 10 years back. We haven't reached that stage yet, I would say. We still got a long way to go to have the right ecosystem of the conversations and the dialogues and debates that we need to have about technology. But I think we're getting there. We're getting there in a comfortable space. And I feel the best of the technologies are the ones which disappear. And when I say disappear, I do not mean that they die off. They disappear because they become a part of our day-to-day activities. That's where the technologies disappear, and those are the best technologies. And computational design has become that in the last few years, I would say.
All right.
So no more we are challenged to tell people what exactly is it, at least in the design industry, I would say.
So what is in normal terms, if I would like to ask you, what is the normal output? What is the output comes from the computational design?
Okay, so if I may ask you a question now, I mean, what do you think is technology? How do you define technology?
Technology, it makes you easy.
No, but what is technology? Can you define technology?
Technology is something you can use in day-to-day life. Everything you are using, you are a technology.
I mean, it's like I'm wearing a jacket. Is this technology?
No, this is a part of technology.
This is made through technology.
This is made through technology.
That's what. It's a very tricky question because nobody has the answer to that. That's what I was getting to. Because if I ask anyone like, what is technology? How do you define technology? The basic thing that comes to your mind is anything which has, let's say, electronics. I mean, you can start to link. Okay, a phone is a technology. A pen may not be a technology, right?
Made up of technology.
Made by technology. But the thing is, how we look at technology is, technology, if you go with the actual definition of technology as well, one of the definitions of technology has been a technique of doing something.
Correct.
So it's basically a technique of doing something. And if you're using computational design, it is basically using computing as a technology to design. Now, what are we designing? Are we designing a house? Yes, you can do that. Are we designing a large building? Yes, we can do that. Are we designing a mug? Yes, we can do that. There are so many things that we can do. It's nothing but a tool that can actually assist us and facilitate us in designing something.
Got it.
But how is it better than a technology or technique which you were using before this? It's better because it can make things more efficient if used in the right way. It is better because it can allow you to think of aspects which you otherwise would not think of. That's what I truly believe in.
Okay.
But that does not mean that I would always say that, okay, technology is the best thing ever. I'm not saying that. I still say that you can't compare if hand sketching is better or using a computer to design is better. I would still say that I would still like to sketch.
Okay.
But at the same time, I'm teaching the most high end of the tools, let's say, or techniques of designing, because we are exploring these technologies and it's sort of pushing us to be innovative. So that goes on to the journey of innovation. That how does innovation happen? Innovation happens when you try to do something which has not been done before.
Correct.
So for us, computational design and technologies were the means to do that, to be innovative.
Perfect.
At the end, we are doing what everybody else is doing.
Great. So how you mix innovation and practicality in your computational design? Innovation and practicality.
So again, innovation does not necessarily mean that it is going to be not practical to do, or non-functional, or even expensive. Those are typical myths about technology. The technology is going to be expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Technology will make things which are very, very, very complex, let's say. I mean, of course, it does allow you to work in that domain, but we have to look at functionality. Let's say if I'm designing a building, if I'm designing a house, let's say commercial building, for example, and I'm looking at the outer skin of the building or a facade of that building, because we work on a lot of facade projects. I can give that example. I don't think I'm thinking that how can technology allow me to design that.
Okay.
The only brief that I have in my mind is that, for example, if the client says I need more light in the building, but I also want privacy. So that's my first problem to solve. That I need light, but I need privacy. So how does I solve that? Okay. So what all materials can I use? Can I use a material which diffuses light, but you can see through it? Can I use a geometry which is at an angle, so the sunlight gets blocked, but the diffused light enters? And at a certain angle, you also have the visibility. So it has become a geometrical problem for me now. Then I will start to, let's say, sketch it out. What are the geometries I can use if I have to play with the angles? This is where a mathematical aspect comes into the picture, which is where then we go into the technology and tool of computers and write and develop an algorithm. An algorithm is a step-by-step process to solve a problem. So we develop our own algorithms in a manner which can allow us to design a facade which will solve the problem of high visibility, low direct sunlight, and then that's one problem solved. Then we look at the next problem. I want the building to be cost effective. Okay, so we know there's geometry. Now how do we make it cost effective? How do we make sure that we can do it with an existing material? Do we have to develop a new detail? So as a designer, now my task is to design that detail. So it's a process of design. It's as simple as that. So and I think we overcomplicate technology in a lot of ways, because we tend to think that anything that is difficult or complex is going to come out of technology, but that is not usually the case. When we are designing a building, I'm designing like an architect, like a true designer, true to his core in the sense of what do I think should be the project about. So there is a sense of intuitiveness involved. There is a sense of let's say some tools that I would be using. There is a sense of my own experiences that I've gathered over time. How do I put that into a narrative, into an experience for someone else? So I'm basically just solving simple architectural problems,
Amazing.
but by using technology.
Amazing insights. So if anyone comes to you, so how did they approach to you as a normal architect or a computational architect? How they take to you in the first time?
I mean, it's hard to say. They obviously overcomplicate our role into design. Typically, when people come to us, or when we are also going to people and sort of pitching ourselves, which we have to all the time, we have to tell them that we are designers. I mean, we are architects, and we will be designing the space. But yes, we have the leverage of using certain tools, which is our expertise, and we can use this to create these many aspects. Let's say we can make sure that your project is innovative. We can make sure that your project is cost effective. We can make sure that your project is sustainable at its core. So whatever values of the project are there, we are just addressing that. Obviously, it is a challenge because people do think that if you design this kind of a building or that kind of a building, then I don't want my building like this, for example. And we tell them every building is different, every project is different. And
how you manage it?
I mean, we don't have a style. We don't follow a style, for example. We follow a process. We follow a process of solving a problem. It's as simple as that. It's not like we will be trying to say that, okay, we want to design curvilinear buildings, because the tools that we are using makes us easier to work with curves. Are we going to create curves on the building? That if the project requires it, only then we'll do that. Let's say if it requires a very interesting kind of a lighting, then okay, we might play with angles, we might play with curves, because the project required a very specialized lighting, for example. So it's to do project to project, what kind of project is it, what scale of project is it, what typology is it. But yeah, people usually see us as mad scientists. If answering your question, how do people see us as? People see us as mad scientists at times, and that is exactly the culture that we are trying to inculcate in our studio and in our educational verticals as well. To breed mad scientists, what does a scientist do? Or what does a mad scientist do? He's experimenting. And experimentation leads to innovation.
Okay.
And there is no one experiment that will lead to innovation. It's a series of experimentation that leads to innovation.
Okay.
So whatever we are doing, every project is leading to an innovation at a higher rate in some way or the other.
So could you walk us through a project, how your project come to you, and how your project come to you in an idea and it comes to you in your mind and you finish with the perfect structure?
It's not a linear process. It's a process of a lot of back and forth. Before I get to that, I want to give a different direction to the conversation, let's say. And I want to ask you a question, like, how do you get any idea?
Idea always comes when you think.
Okay,
Something
so
for you.
you are sitting and thinking of something, and that's where an idea comes. But have you ever experienced, I'm going to take the conversation a little candid, but when you are in the shower and you get like 10 different ideas.
Yes, you can get
It
it.
happens, right?
All
And like when you are in your free zone, when your mind is doing something, when you're watching a movie, and at the back of your mind, an idea clicks. So I'll tell you the psychology of ideation, which is very interesting, and not many people know about it. So we have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. Our conscious mind is an equivalent to what we can perceive in our 2 feet radius. Think of it like that. So my conscious mind can understand that you are sitting here, there are some books here, there are some photographs here or whatever. I can perceive all of that. I don't know what's happening in the parking area.
But
My mind cannot
Actually.
perceive that. So my conscious mind is equivalent, the information that it has is equivalent to a 2 feet radius information,
Correct.
which is a lot of information as well. I know the detail of this, I know the detail of that, etc. A subconscious mind is equivalent to 11 acres of information.
actually,
And that is the thing. So that is your data set in your mind. So conscious mind and subconscious mind. So ideas are generated when your mind starts to navigate into your subconscious zone as well. And what is stored in your subconscious zone? Your experiences, what you have read, maybe what I experienced as a child, what I play, what toys did I play with, what technologies did I work with, what video games did I play. Everything is a part of that 11-acre experience. Think of it like that. That is all stored in all of our minds. And we can't access the full capacity of our minds. I don't know if you've seen the movie Limitless. I really love that movie where it says that you take that drug which can allow you to access subconscious information. Technology is also like that. When you have the tools of technology, it allows you to play around with more things. So now getting back to how do we design a project. When we are ideating a project, we don't think about what tool are we going to use. We're not thinking about how the building is going to look like. We try to just understand what is the brief of the project in terms of what are the problems that we are solving. And there are a couple of thumb rules that I follow as a designer and which I try to instill in the studio as well, that we should always try one thing which we have not tried before.
Okay. Always.
Yeah. Somebody else may have tried, but we have not tried. So we need to try to learn that. And the second rule is that we always need to try something which nobody has tried.
Great.
So it's a balance between these two. So every project is a balance between these two. I will never say that there is a project. So the first part is which we have not tried before. Somebody else may have. That's where your general understanding of your experiences, your reference, where your ideas come from, that's where they originate. The second part, which nobody has tried, that's where the real innovation lies, because you're trying to solve a problem what has not been done before, and that is a very challenging part. It will not always be successful. I'll tell you why. If you're designing somebody's house, for example, a residential project, simple bungalow and stuff, which you've been doing quite a few. If I say I want to do something in your balconies or terrace, which will give you, let's say, X meters of cantilever and make you float in the space and make it look like a sky bridge or something. The first thought that will come to that person's mind is, okay, this is innovative. Nobody has done that possibly. But that person will see, this is not how a house is, right? So he will fight you with that. He will fight you tooth and nail to make sure that you don't end up doing that, or he'll get you out of the project.
So it's in the mid-time of when you saw the 3D, after that you are talking about this?
No, yeah, I mean, sometimes, yes. Sometimes when we conceptualize something and create something and then show it to someone, then they will say, this is very crazy. I mean, this is not something you can do. But then at the same time, there are times where the same person is also saying that I want something different.
All the time.
So that's the problem. And especially in India, we find these a lot of people who are saying that मुझे कुछ ऐसा चाहिए जो किसी ने ना किया हो, और वही बंदा ये भी बोलता है कि मुझे कुछ ऐसा चाहिए, नहीं मुझे कुछ ऐसा मत दो जो पहले कभी देखा नहीं हुआ मैंने.
अच्छा.
So because the first question when you show him something which has not been done before is, ऐसा और कहीं पे हुआ है, आपने और कहीं पे किया है, नहीं किया तो मैं आप पे भरोसा कैसे करूँ, आप कर सकते हो इसको.
अच्छा, ये डबल पॉइंट हो गया.
So then you're playing around with juggling with that mindset, and that is always a problem. And that is a problem of innovation. That is a problem of any innovation. Till the time we knew, I mean, 10 साल पहले, 15 साल पहले कोई बोलता है कि मेरे फोन में यार टॉर्च भी होगी, कैमरा भी होगा, उससे मेरी हार्ट बीट भी रिकॉर्ड होगी, बोलने का पागल है, क्या बोल रहा है? Correct. You can't have all of this, यार. Show me something what has been done before.
Actually.
जो नोकिया ने किया मुझे वो दिखाओ, जो सैमसंग ने किया वो दिखाओ. तब तो एप्पल पता ही नहीं था किसी को.
बिल्कुल.
आज की डेट में सब वही कर रहे हैं जो एप्पल कर रहा है, फॉर एग्जांपल.
बिल्कुल सही.
So any innovation is very challenging, at core. It has these day-to-day problems because you're dealing with a client of all of these things. So coming back to how we are doing projects, yes, we are trying to solve the problems, and we use technology to help us solve them faster, quicker, and more efficiently.
I just want to add one question in this.
Sure.
What type of problems you get at the time of you are saying that you are solving the problems? What problems you are getting?
I think the biggest problem and the challenge that we get at the start of the project is because when people reach out to us, let's say, they have seen a set of work that we've done. They would reach out to us saying that we want something absolutely mind-blowing. Completely out of the world. But something that you have done before. I need to see it first. Then the other challenge is, but it has to be cost effective also.
ये मेरा next question होगा. 100%.
So the same person is not going to be paying you for innovation, but that person is okay to pay for a very expensive marble, imported marble or something, let's say, for example, or any other luxury product, for example. The same person is okay to have technology in his bathtub with a nice expensive jacuzzi, but will not be paying for the design innovation. And that is always a challenge for us. So the biggest problem I'm trying to deal with, which is a subjective problem, I would say, is how to do things innovatively and make it unique. If I tell you the objective problems usually in majority of a facade project is, again, let's say high visibility, but cut off sunlight. So it's a challenging problem.
It's a challenging of facade.
Yeah, so it's like if you open it up, तो सनलाइट भी आएगी, मुझे सनलाइट नहीं चाहिए, लेकिन मुझे विजिबिलिटी भी रखनी है.
अच्छा.
So it's a problem because it's not a straightforward answer to that. That's where you come to creating a geometry which is at an angle. That's where your algorithms and mathematics will come into the picture. So you're using your tools How are you using those tools? Through technology, through computers. So it all comes down to that. The problems are of different kinds. Like I remember we were doing this villa in Hyderabad where we had a height restriction. So now let's talk of the objective architectural problems. We had a height restriction of a particular height because the bylaws had got changed. But the family wanted 4 floors. As per the height, you can only have 3 floors.
Okay. Then how you manage?
So it's a very interesting thing that we tried to solve that. So he said, "हम 4 भाई हैं, so we can't live on same floor. We want parents to be on one floor, which is on the ground floor with the common areas, and then we want 4 different floors of 4 different families. But the height does not allow you that. So how do you solve that problem?"
Then how you?
मतलब the first thing that he gave the idea कि कुछ पैसे वैसे खिला के कर सकते हैं, कुछ height restriction हो जाए. मैंने कहा आज कर दो, कल को टूट जाएगा यार. Temporary structure बना दो, क्या कर दो, whatever. And everybody wants a floor. So what do we do with that? So first thing that I thought, okay, this is a very, very challenging problem. But he said, "I know you are very innovative, so you can do it." I said, okay, let's think of it. Then we tried to break down the problem into simple parts. And it became a geometric problem for us.
Seriously?
This is the height. We can't get floor to floor height lesser than a certain amount because it's a luxury villa. You want a certain height and stuff. And how do we incorporate different kind of spaces and spatial character? So we ended up understanding like a Tetris.
Okay.
So you must have played the game Tetris where blocks are fitting onto each other. So we were like, why can't we make duplex where one person is living on level 1 and half of level 2, but the level 2 person is living on level 2 and half of level 1. And there is a wall in between. उसका अपना अपार्टमेंट है, इसका अपना अपार्टमेंट है. उसको नहीं पता वो सेम फ्लोर पे है. एंड इसके पास ये डबल हाइट स्पेस भी आ गई.
अच्छा.
So that's how we cracked it. And we were like, okay, wow. It was a mathematical problem, a geometric problem. Then we started to use technology to create iterations of what are possibilities. Check if the FAR allows us to do that, if we're able to have the built-up area, and that's how we designed that space. So every space had a skylight, and we actually played like modules. And I'm not saying the technology started this solving the problem, but yes, technology assisted us to actually explore hundreds of options, which we could create algorithmically to let us know that which is the most efficient option. And then we ended up designing the facade and everything like that.
You took it up from Tetris game. अब मेरे दिमाग में भी ये चल रहा है कि वो सही बात है कि blocks आते हैं नीचे ऊपर right left you manage that way. So what the height you took at that time?
So eventually we took like a standard height of 10 feet, 3300.
So you designed, as you said, you designed like half full, half full.
But nobody could imagine that problem solving.
No one.
Because आपका typical mindset क्या बोलेगा? हम floors को ऐसे डिवाइड कर देते हैं, फिर सेटबैक्स लेते हैं, इतनी जगह है, मतलब मेक अ 4000 स्क्वायर फीट अपार्टमेंट. मेरा 4000 क्यों, उसको 2500 देते हैं और 1500 ऊपर ले जाते हैं. लेट्स इंक्लूड अ स्टेयरकेस. स्पेशली भी अच्छा हो गया, लाइट भी आ गई, डबल हाइट स्पेस बन गई और उसका एक रूम ऊपर चला गया फॉर एग्जांपल. एंड दैट्स हाउ द लेआउट स्टार्टेड टू प्लान आउट. सो कंप्यूटेशनल डिजाइन डिड नॉट force us to create something very complicated, which is a usual myth for computational design, that you'll end up creating a twisting tower or a very different parametric facade and stuff like that. We ended up using it in a simple geometric exercise. So that was interesting for us.
Super. So as you said, जैसे आप designs कर रहे हो और bespoke furnitures, completely you end up with the bespoke furnitures, complete structures, facade. So what are the major problems you got from the client?
So I would say if I have to club down the usual problems that we have to face, I think like I said before, it's to pushing the innovative solutions, honestly. Yeah, because I don't think there's any other problem or challenge as such in terms of course, clients being clients, they can be difficult in different ways, but that's a part of our role actually. So I don't think there's any other. Yeah, cost becomes a problem. Yes, I mean, if you think of it actually, initially cost was a problem. So we had to solve that over a period of time. Because whatever we are designing, if it's going to be expensive, if something that by convention costs 100 rupees should not cost 300 rupees to someone for an innovative solution. Because we are not Apple. We're not going to be selling about 10,000 ka phone in 90,000, you know, where we create a culture, people are actually trying to buy that. That's a different thing. We haven't reached that stage yet, or not do we intend to take that pathway actually. But that being said, cost effectiveness was a big problem for initial many years, because a lot of our designs were not believed that they would be executed. So they were not going forward.
Okay.
So the ideas were getting killed before it is even born at times.
Got it.
Or sometimes when it's born, it's cultivated, it's growing into a nice idea, but right before it's getting to a point, you're dealing with an ecosystem of people, let's say contractors, vendors, fabricators, all sorts of things, and everybody has their own notion about innovation. And they would obviously create that aura around the client that, okay, this is not going to be easy. And how did we solve that problem? That's where we started a vertical of design fab, which is only focusing on execution of facades.
Okay.
So we have another vertical, RATLAB design fab, which we don't talk about. Only our clients know about it actually. Honestly, we don't like put it out there and stuff, because any kind of things that we've been designing, we give them an option that, okay, we can execute it because we know the technology, because we have, let's say, if I have to make 10,000 panels of different sizes and shapes, a typical factory guy will say, this is not possible. This will cost you 5x.
Then?
But with the digital fabrication tools that we will end up using at scale, we can do it at 1x only.
Correct.
But allow us the opportunity to do that. So a lot of people don't allow us to do that, but people who do are now sitting with good innovative solutions. So it's how that this sort of a process works for us.
As I see always now in Delhi also, people are more into the facade best होना चाहिए. आजकल different facades I can see in North Delhi, South Delhi. Can you share what is trending now in the facade if we talk?
Right. So I gave you an example earlier in our conversation about what we started as a facade which automatically moves with using the energy of the sun and controls the heat and light inside the building. So that is absolutely futuristic. That was futuristic 15 years back when we conceptualized it. That is futuristic even today.
Okay.
Obviously, because it's something which is not scalable currently. That material is not available currently.
Okay, not available.
It is not available at scale.
All right.
So what we did, we experimented at small scales, kept on increasing the scale. Nitinol, the material that I mentioned, nickel and titanium alloy, is actually used in medical instruments. And it is used in electrical equipments. Voltage ज़्यादा ही वो cut off हो जाता है. It expands and cuts off.
Have you tried in India any project?
Yeah, we had this installation where we did the kinetic movement and stuff with the nitinol. In fact, that installation we had got from Los Angeles when we had exhibited it there, and we actually got it to India. I remember it was stuck in customs also because it looked very weird to everyone, and it got stuck at customs because it looked with a lot of springs and wires and all sorts of things. So people suspected what the hell is this. So I had to actually get that out of the customs.
This is the metal part.
Yeah. So, but it is not something which is available at a larger scale or not been tested yet as well. Maybe somebody might be doing it. We did not pursue forward only in that direction because we wanted to build more facades, conventional facades as well. So like coming back to the facades, the kind of facades that we started with doing was typical parametric facades that you're doing in innovative ways. But at the same time, people were having difficulty to understand that how is this possible, because the conventional mindset is that will it be metal, will it be wooden cladding, will it be concrete or whatever. So how do we break that norm? So now let's talk about the awareness part that we were talking about.
Yes,
awareness of computational design, awareness of parametric design. What that part did for us and for everyone, I would say.
Before we jump into this, I think no one knows about parametric design also.
Right.
So
I'll tell you a bit about that in a very simple terms.
Sure.
So parametric design is a mathematical way of designing where we work with certain set of objective parameters to allow us to create something. It's as simple as that. So if I'm creating a shape, if I'm creating this shape, so my parameters of this is the radius of the bottom radius, the upper radius, the loft is a technical language that I'm using, loft between to create the surface between this, position of this handle, curvature, radius of this, all the geometrical attributes. So let's say if I make a parametric model of this and then decide that, hey, let me change radius R1. So my cup's design will change.
Correct.
So I can create a new option, new design. And then I can even keep on changing the radius. So let's say I create two variations, radius 1, radius 2. And I ask a problem. Does radius 2 allow me to fill more coffee in this? So can I check the volume? So that is my evaluation criteria. So if I change radius 1 and radius 2 and keep on changing, so ये curvilinear dancing shape बन गई, for example. But I am checking which one of these options holds the maximum coffee. And I have a standard of 350 ml of coffee, so I want that 350 to be the benchmark.
Great.
So keep on changing R1 and R2 till I reach that 350. I get a set of options. So now imagine this geometric problem
completely
at an architectural scale.
I'm not into this, but I'm trying to understand.
I try to make it very simple.
But how you use that residential projects or commercial projects?
So again, like I said, I gave you the example of the Tetris puzzle kind of thing. It's a geometric problem. I personally have a lot of knack for geometry and of mathematics. And that's something which has been my foundation personally. So I think that sort of helps to solve these kind of problems and even read these kind of problems. Sometimes you don't read these problems. You have to read these problems from the project brief in a manner where you can start to sort of solve that. Now coming back to the facade, the awareness part allowed creating a norm in the industry that people were starting to talk about parametric. People were starting to talk about computation. People were talking about algorithms. And now, surprisingly, in the last couple of years, clients are coming to us and saying that we want a parametric facade. And we know you are the expert, so you can do it for us.
Okay.
So that's where we are sitting right now. It's not as fancy as it may sound. It has a lot of challenges and problems as well. Because people have different notions about parametric. So they might go to a typically facade material vendor and ask him a parametric facade. That material vendor is not going to come to a design. He will try to solve it in his own way and sell his product as parametric. So sometimes it's like a filtered level of clients that we have who talk to us in a certain language and a certain understanding because they've read about us or our work or our overall culture of the studio or whatever. But typically now people are asking for parametric facades.
Okay.
And then another aspect that we are exploring in facades is when people are now asking for creating a brand identity through facade.
Correct.
So we're actually working, in fact, for one of our recent projects in Noida. We developed a headquarters office for a recruitment company. We designed this facade, a very cool parametric facade. Now that pattern of that facade became the company logo.
The facade is become the logo.
So that has become the brand identity because it came out to be so iconic that it became the logo for that, and now all their branding is around that design. And now we also help them do some bit of furniture and interiors, which is where we use the same geometries to design that. So what did the facade do? Facade actually changed the brand identity and language. So again, that is another thing which people sometimes come to us for, that I want to create something unique, that my facade should speak for my brand. So if I'm a let's say, I don't know, if I have a factory of car accessories, or so how can my facade say that in some way or the other? So that's the problem we get. It's very challenging at times.
Okay.
But it's fun.
Actually, it sounds like a phenomenon.
Yeah.
So how much percentage you count the facade in the projects? Percentage of, if you take the complete project, how much percent you give for the facade?
Okay, so the architectural projects that we work with, which sort of we are designing the entire architecture, sometimes the interiors as well. Facade is usually a part of the architecture because the architecture sort of gives the narrative of the facade. So, like, where do we place our balconies, where do we place our windows, etc., etc., the massing and the volume and stuff. So that is one type of projects that we work on. Second type of projects is where people come to us only for facade.
Only for facade?
Yes, and these are a lot of architects who would come to us that, okay, I've done the architecture, I want something parametric, something cool, something jazzy. तो पहले हम उनको एजुकेट करते हैं कि पैरामेट्रिक का मतलब jazzy and cool नहीं है सिर्फ, मतलब that is something you can achieve, yes, but we can achieve a lot more. We can achieve an integrated lighting in some sort of a manner to create a brand identity, and all of these things become a part of the facade design. So when we are doing a typical architectural project with a facade, I think we put a lot of focus on facade. It's very difficult to quantify how much a percentage of time, energy and heart and soul we put into it, but how the building looks, that is extremely important. And that is important as a designer, for me artistically also, because a building is not it's not only about the functional aspects of the building, which obviously have to be resolved. What you see as the final product is extremely important, either for your brand or for yourself as a statement, to create an iconicity. Now we are working in, there are some confidential projects, I won't be able to name them, but we're working some projects in certain cities and in certain contexts where we are playing a pivotal role which will make that city iconic. Because that facade is meant to create an identity for the city.
Changing the complete identity.
Yes. So that's where we have to do a lot of research. We have to really understand the culture of the city, because that's where you have a lot of responsibility as well. So this is also where it's an interesting way that these facades and designs are not only futuristic, because sometimes people also consider them as futuristic only. Futuristic can be termed in a very negative sense, because futuristic से notion क्या आता है, जो अभी नहीं है बाद में होगा, तो अभी possible ही नहीं है. That's the notion behind it. So futuristic is not always a positive notion. और futuristic है तो महंगा होगा.
ये mindset है.
वो mindset है. ठीक है. So we have to break that mentality. So in a lot of our projects now, we are actually working on religious projects. We worked on temples. We've done a mosque project.
Okay.
We're right now also working on a very important.
Maybe you have done the facade part.
We're doing facade, we're doing installations, we're doing interiors, we're doing architecture. There are a lot of things in different scopes. But we are using design technologies to bring upon the heritage of sacred spaces.
Got it.
And when you talk of a sacred space, geometry and mathematics play a key role. So a temple we designed in South India. So we were onboarded as parametric consultants on that project.
Okay.
There was an architectural firm in Chennai who got us on board for that, specifically a facade. So we played a very interesting role to design the volume and the massing in a manner. In fact, a very interesting part of the project was that the area of the site was 11.11 acres.
Okay.
So you can imagine how obsessed they were with the numerology and the numbers, and everything had to be about 11. So how we started to decode that project for us. So again, it became a mathematical and geometric problem for us. It's a temple. It was a Sai Baba temple.
Okay.
And so you can't imagine like parametric design in a temple in a conventional setting. But we took that up as a challenge. Along with the number as well in the picture. So we're like, okay, what can 11 signify for us? So we did a lot of research on understanding and decoding about number 11, trying to connect that with Vastu Shastra, trying to connect that with spirituality, trying to connect that with, if we can try to get some inspiration from somewhere. Again, where do we get the ideas from? Subconscious mind and conscious mind, a mix of that. So we tried to actually dig in deep, and did a lot of research. And eventually what we started was, okay, let's try an 11-sided polygon, a basic 2D form. It is called a hendecagon.
Okay.
So nobody knew what is a hendecagon was. Even I did not know. I may have had a very deep interest in mathematics, but we know a hexagon, we know a pentagon, we know a square, rectangle, etc. Octagon तक पता है, ठीक है. उसके बाद नहीं पता होता ज़्यादा लोगों को. But then we have this hendecagon. Hendecagon is an 11-sided polygon where all the 11 sides are equal.
Okay.
So we said, okay, can we work with a hendecagon? And can we do something with 11 different sides? So our planning started around using a hendecagon, and then we developed a geometric system of 11 faces and 11 sides, which all comes together.
Okay.
And the height of the structure was 11 into 6, so 66 meters was the height, because that was what was permissible. So we actually broke down everything into 11. That whatever dimensions we have in the entire temple has to be divisible by 11.
Super.
So that's how
you designed with the number 11.
With that number 11. So our whole process of designing and approaching the temple and a sacred geometry was actually getting into the mathematics, trying to use that number to creatively draw something. So first we did a lot of sketches. Then we created an algorithm. Then we went to the computer, let's say. So again, went from manual process to a technological process where we developed an algorithm of doing a lot of permutations and combinations of geometries. What if we twist the 11? What if we have a crown on top, which is also 11-sided? What if we have a crown which is 22-sided? And then we merge the 11 to 22. What kind of form and shape do we get? Started to explore with that. So that was our experimentation. That was our... So design research, which was a mathematical research, led to our exploration of the geometries. And that's where we started to experiment. Once we got different forms and structures, then we started to look into the practicality aspect. How do the columns come down? How do the structures stand and stuff like that? And that's what led to our entire temple design. So a very beautiful geometric temple. I mean, one can look at the visual and say it's very much like the Lotus Temple because in essence, it actually also draw a narrative from there in some way or the other, directly or subconsciously, I would say. But the Lotus Temple is not 11-sided. So 11-sided polyhedron, which is a hendecagon put together 3-dimensionally, which had these perforated geometries. And that 11 number, we had incorporated in the flooring pattern. We had 11 sides coming in, converging and moving across to the opposite side. And we changed the algorithm in a manner where the center focus is not the center. Towards the end is a focal point. So you have a cutting pattern, which is all diamond-like digrade tiles of stone put together, and all those lines converge to one point at the end, which is where you put the deity, which is where you put Sai Baba.
Hendecagon.
And the hendecagon at the end. Yeah. So that was the concept, and everything was around 11.
I've got some few questions from the audience side.
Sure.
What I think in my mind. So what is facade?
So facade is basically your building skin, which is what you see in a building, let's say. Right? So it's like, it could be a wall, it could be a perforated skin or anything. But facade has a basic role to play. First thing that the facade gives to a building is protecting the building from the exterior environment. So that is your environmental aspects come into the picture, which is where our sustainability angle goes. That why we need to be very clear with the sustainability principles, because we would do a radiation study, we would do a daylight study, everything on the skin that we are designing to test if it's comfortable inside. So that's where our science comes into the picture. So one thing the facade would do is a barrier between the outside and the inside. Right. The second thing the facade would typically do is create a structural strength for the building, because that's the exoskeleton of a building. Now it could be a wall, it could be columns, it could be whatever it is. So it's also sometimes a strengthening aspect of the building. However, with the typical RCC structures, the facade does not hold a structural load as such. It's like a skin which is put to protect.
Correct.
The other aspect which a facade has to do or is doing is to create an identity for the building.
Identity.
Because eventually, every place, every neighborhood, every city has its own identity. How does the identity come? By the looks of the building.
Correct.
And that has an artistic notion to it, but it also has a mathematical aspect to it. Now, where does the mathematics come to the picture? Is, for example, when we look at the let's say the Roman buildings and the Roman architecture, when we look into that, there is a sense of proportions that are being followed. There is a certain sizes that are being followed.
Okay.
And what we perceive as beauty. Nature may everything is patterns and mathematics. That is how we perceive beauty. Why do we like waves? I don't know, if you go to a beach and look at the waves, there is a pattern that comes.
There is a pattern.
So, पहली हर wave strong नहीं आती ना. There is a pattern. If you try to decode that pattern, and I may be getting wrong technically, but essentially, principally, I can tell you that there will be one strong wave, then another, then it'll skip 2, then the third one will be strong, then it'll skip 3, the fifth one will be stronger. So it's the Fibonacci pattern. Which is very similar to Fibonacci pattern. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 13.
Correct.
21.
Again,
so you keep on adding these numbers, and that's how you get the next number. That's how the patterns are being formed. And for us, beauty and aesthetics has a lot to do with mathematics. Why do we like certain things as soft and hard? For example, if you look at an iPhone's edges, it's a soft fillet. So it causes soft look.
Soft look.
The Tesla Cybertruck is a very hard look. It's a polygonal mesh.
Polygon, again mathematics.
Exactly. It's all a mathematics and geometry. So whatever we like or dislike, you look at a Ferrari, for example, it's completely aerodynamic. So you like the curves of that, right? A Lamborghini would be a little more robust. So it'll have some sharp edges, not smooth edges. Everything, every geometry has a sense of understanding of our beauty. So mathematics is everywhere. It's about just trying to get those patterns. So pattern finding is again another thing which I prefer doing. I like doing in my own way. So you try to draw inspiration. That's where my subconscious ideas come from, to create those patterns. And that's where we can use parametric design to create a certain pattern.
Great. So as you said, you have a lot of experience, plus you tried new things, experiment new things. But as I talk about the Indian culture mindset, so they like, if I talk about myself, I go to an architect and I can show something to him.
Yeah.
Okay, I want this type of, this is what I want from you. So what do you think, then what do you do? Because you always...
because that happens with us. But there is another statement that comes. This is what I want, but ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए, but बिल्कुल अलग होना चाहिए. So that's a challenge. So how we do...
At the end you get it?
We don't get to that. In fact, there was one time where we actually did sort of a mistake, I would say. Not a mistake, I would say, but we went into the direction of really following what the client had wanted. And it started to look like something else. And that is something where we have to be slightly more careful. That we are not chasing the aesthetics of something, we are chasing innovation. Because as a studio, as a designer, we are chasing innovation. We're trying to do something innovative.
Perfect.
So, yes, it happens where people come with a particular image. What we try to do typically, and we've done that in a few projects, we try to understand and decode their psychology for them to understand. We give them 10 images. We don't ask them what do you like. We ask them what you don't like.
Okay.
Just pinpoint that. That's where they start to think what they don't like.
But some of them are stubborn. Completely stubborn.
Absolutely. A lot of people are.
So have you got any project in your mind where you have shown more than 10
iterations? And yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There have been times where the clients have been very demanding in terms of like, keep on showing. Eventually, like, I mean, we can keep innovating, but there is no end to it eventually. But at the end of the day, I think it's about making them realize either what they don't want or what they want. If you figure out any of these two, your life becomes 50% easier.
Correct.
Because you have now cracked what they want or don't want. So now it's in your play zone of what you want to do.
So, but again, you don't want to play safe because always you want innovation in that.
Absolutely.
Then what is the mindset behind that?
So there has to be a balance, honestly. I mean, I will be lying if I say that every time we have done in the project what we wanted to do. Of course not. Of course not. There are practical challenges. There are things where we do deviate from that, but I would never call it a compromise also. I will never say that कि यार हमने ये डिजाइन बनाया और अगर ये नहीं बना तो कॉम्प्रोमाइज हो गया डिजाइन. नो, इट इवॉल्व्ड फॉर अ रीजन. वी हैव टू स्टार्ट टू एक्सेप्ट दैट. सो इफ आई एम ट्राइंग टू डू समथिंग which the market is not accepting, then there's something wrong with what I'm offering as well, right? I have to accept that. But it has taken some time for us to be in acceptance with that. I think that's more of a spiritual change that has happened over a period of time and with age and everything, that we understand that, okay, you can't force your ideas to everyone. You can't. Okay. But yes, you can create something innovative, and if somebody wants it, here is it.
Okay.
And which is where our art vertical becomes a very, very satisfactory vertical for us. Because when we work with art installation, so we have a separate vertical called RATLAB, which is sort of born out of RATLAB. And the story behind that is also pretty interesting because we used to work on a lot of art installations. We used to work on small scale temporary installations as well. And we realized that over a period of time, we developed this sort of expertise to not just design them, but also get it executed. So we started RATLAB as a design and build execution arm for only for art installations, which create a unique effect, which can transform your space into anything. It could be a small piece of three-dimensional art, or it could be an entire surface, or your false ceiling, or your flooring pattern, or whatever. It could be any design element in a space. That is an art. Now, how does it become satisfactory in the sense that we are able to create things which people, if you like, you can get that in your space. And it is adaptable enough because we design parametrically to fit into any space or most of the spaces. We made a cladding system which could be put in a 10 by 10 feet frame or a 20 by 20 feet frame, but may not be feasible for a 100 feet wall because it will not be cost effective in that sense. So we have a different solution for that. We collaborated with a flooring company to develop flooring tiles where we played only with 3 modules and they could create 25 combinations by playing around with these 3 modules and create different patterns. So that is mathematics for us.
Okay.
We are 3D printing these. We're designing in 3D printing. These are parametrically designed.
You designed it?
Yeah. So we designed 3D printed variables also.
Can I see this?
Yeah. So it's
Parametric design.
Yeah. So it's like you can do anything with using technology.
So after design, you cut it in the laser.
So this is 3D printed.
Okay, 3D.
In our printer in the studio.
Oh, you printed here only?
Yeah. I can print one for you.
Great.
As we speak as well. So it's like that kind. So it's like engraved in our studio's culture now, in the way we function, that okay, if this pattern, for example, or this geometry is not feasible right now for a facade because there are no materials available, can we do it in a 3D printed variable? Can we do it in a ring, let's say? For example, we have like different kind of jewelries which you're working on. So that's an experimentation that we're doing. Now this may someday, very crazy as it may sound, may be the design of a stadium that we are designing. We don't know.
Yes, actually.
It's all a geometry. So that is the beauty of scale. And nature works on their scale. So I'm gonna take the conversation back into nature and mathematics. Nature has same patterns at different scales. I'll give you an example. You can see a typical Fibonacci vortex when there is water flowing out from a certain area. You can see the same vortex when there is a cloud of tsunami appearing. You can see the same Fibonacci vortex on the pattern of a flower.
Flower also is the same.
It's a phyllotaxis of a flower, how the seeds are arranged. If you look at a sunflower, there is a mathematical pattern. It's not random.
Okay.
There is a mathematics to it. Similarly, I can give you an example of a Voronoi cell. Voronoi is a mathematical concept of space packing. You see that pattern on the shell of a tortoise. You see that on the wings of a dragonfly. That's where why it is so thin and has a lot of strength, because of the Voronoi packing. You see the same pattern when the ground cracks out of drying out.
Great.
Because water absorbs and it creates that sort of a pattern. I mean, I teach all of these things in our workshops to students to make them understand that this is the mindset that you need to have. How you break down any complexity into simple parts.
You're getting everything from the nature.
Yeah.
Nature, geometry, mathematics.
Exactly. So it's all connected. It's all connected in that sense. So that's where the art vertical is very satisfactory in that sense, that we're able to create a lot of art installations. What may not be feasible currently with the current tools of construction in facade industry or architecture industry, we may be able to do that as an art, as an installation, which people do appreciate.
Perfect. So one example of, as you discussed with us, the subconscious and conscious mind. So I just want to ask you one question: how your subconscious mind get the problem solutions?
So it's again something which can possibly happen very organically. It's not something you can program it like that. Honestly, with typically the schedule that I would have, juggling with a lot of things, there is no one type of creative process where I can sit down and say, okay, now I have to think about the project. It comes in different bits and parts.
Actually, the question is like, see, at the time of starting the project, then you become this problem solver. Is not a big task.
Right.
The big task is at the time of mid.
Yeah.
When you solve any problem, the question I want to ask you this: how you solve that?
So I think it happens on the go again. There is no perfect way that I can say that my subconscious mind has to be activated now and then I have to think over the things. It comes over a period of time. And I'm a very organic person in terms of how I work, but I'm very organized also. Super organized. Like I would know the subfolder ka subfolder, for example. So you have to think of your mind also like that. How do you access that? You just don't have to access the main folders. You have to access the subfolder and the subfolders within that and the category of lists and data within that. It's a very interesting way of thinking that have I ever done that consciously in a project? Yes, those kind of movements happen when you are at the site. Those kind of movements happen when you are with the fabricator trying to solve a problem. When you're trying to devise a detail for something. अब हमने कुछ complicated अगर design कर दिया, उसकी detail तो fabricator को नहीं पता, so you spend time with that, with the fabricator to understand. And this is not something which conventionally you would not do. Conventionally also architects have been operating like that. We go to the site, we make a sketch, we sometimes discuss with the contractors and the vendors. It's an organic process. So it's the same for us. But in our case, what we are able to leverage is the extra layer of technology.
All right.
I can solve a problem, come back to my tools and technology and try to use that to help me do that faster. And I'll give you an example. A recent facade project. It's called tweening arches in Noida. So it's a parametric facade where you have these curves coming in and stuff. So when we were designing it, we were exploring different options and stuff. After even we designed and design got approved and everything from the client, we were like, how do we fabricate this? Because we're dealing with a lot of curves and all those curves are different. They have a different bending. One is bent at a certain curvature, the next one is bent at a larger curvature, another one at larger. So we went to our factory where we fabricate the facade. We were just discussing how do we actually bend these tubes? Can we bend these tubes? So that's where your general understanding of your deeper mathematics comes, that what we are doing is tweening. Now that's why we called it as a tweening arches. Tweening is a mathematical way of how one thing morphs with another.
Got it. Both morphs.
Matlab, if I have a straight line and I have a curve, how do I morph from A to B? So you have a straight line with a gentle curve, with a little more curve, with a little more curve, with a little more curve, till it reaches that, right?
Correct.
Same thing I do parametrically in my software, and I'm able to do that. Now I'll tell you where it came from, that idea. I was possibly, I was in 7th standard. I don't know what my age was that time, but yeah, like 14 years old, 15 years old. 15 years old, let's say. I was introduced to a computer around that time, and I had a knack of exploring a lot of softwares. And that time, there used to be a magazine called Chip magazine. अभी किसी को नहीं पता होगी. It used to be later called as Digit. उसमें एक CD फ्री मिलती थी. 30 रुपए की मैगजीन आती थी, एक CD फ्री मिलती थी, उसमें 30 सॉफ्टवेयर होते थे ट्रायल वर्जन. New softwares which used to come. So I was very keen on that. I used to go to the magazine stand, buy it from nearby, get it and get super excited over the weekend after I finish my homeworks and stuff as a student and explore softwares. That time I explored a software called Bitmorph. मेरे को आज तक नाम याद है वो software का. I'm sure there would be softwares named with that. What it used to do was image morphing.
Okay.
That how can I morph your image and mine? Which is what we've seen in movies also that time. How do we morph one person to the other? And then I used to watch movies, I used to observe that how do they do this editing?
Okay.
Morphing कैसे होती है? So that's when I got introduced with the concept of morphing. So it is basically a tweening of one geometry to the other. तो हम फेशियल मॉर्फ जो करते हैं उसमें हम पॉइंट्स पिक करते हैं और कंप्यूटर को बताते हैं कि ये आईज है, ये ईयर है और ये फोरहेड की बाउंड्रीज है. And my control points, if I'm drawing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, second phase पे मुझे 5 ड्रॉ करने हैं, तभी वो स्मूथ मॉर्फ होएगा.
Okay.
अगर मैंने 7 कंट्रोल पॉइंट्स किए तो वो मॉर्फिंग स्मूथ नहीं होगी, कंप्यूटर को समझ नहीं आएगा. आज exactly same thing I'm teaching in Rhino
That
You know,
will,
30 years down the line, when, you know, about
almost 30,
25 years down the line, I'm teaching the same stuff in Rhino software. But my understanding of that concept is my subconscious mind when I was a kid and exploring with that.
Very great sharing. Actually, you shared a great thing.
Yeah.
So last week I was watching one video, and that everything what you are sharing it to me about the mind, subconscious mind, the storage capacity, the mindset.
Yeah.
You are actually describing us the mindset.
Yeah.
Set is a bunch of all the folders, subfolders, everything.
Right.
Now you are giving us a practical example that how you are using that things. Amazing.
And it's something which I'm not doing consciously. I would say that's my design process. So there are times when things click, and there are times when it doesn't also.
Super.
There are times when we are trying to creatively do something in a project and we're just not getting that output. Or it is not liked by someone, and it may be because we are not getting to the most innovative solution. That's how I like to see it. I don't like to see that why is the client not liking it. It's good. So we try not to be complacent in the kind of things that we're doing. But we always would produce like 5 to 6 options, if required even more at times, depending on what would come out nice for the project. And till the time we and the clients and all the stakeholders are in sync with that, it doesn't move forward. It's just fine.
Actually.
So, and when it moves forward, then there are other challenges. Other time हमें नहीं पता होता बनेगा कैसे. But we have to sort of tell them that we have to give them the right confidence. Obviously, not something which is extremely impossible, but it is going to be challenging.
So if we talk about the price point, how much you charge for the minimum, कैसे कहाँ से start होता है? The starting price range for the parametric design, how much you charge?
So it's very difficult to define how we would charge for designing parametrically.
Idea.
I don't think there's a benchmark, honestly. I mean, numbers are very deceptive, I would say.
Okay.
So in fact, we don't have benchmarking on projects because we don't have a standardized style, like I mentioned earlier. Like if we were designing, let's say, houses, I will possibly have, let's say, this is the per square feet rate I would charge, for example. But when I'm parametrically designing, there is no benchmarking. So every time I'm designing a facade, or if I'm designing a house or something, I can't put a benchmark, unfortunately. So every time when we have a project brief or project coming up, we decode the problem internally and understand what does it require, how much of work and extra effort, not extra effort, but effort would be required as a studio, as a team or whatever. And that's how we put have a consultancy on that basically. But when we do art installations, I can give you an idea of that. So an art installation could cost anywhere between, so we have done a 70,000 art piece.
Sizes?
A piece of furniture. Small piece of furniture, like a stool, but a very cool looking, interesting stool. 70,000 to the largest, I would say 70 lakhs.
Great.
So that's the artwork, which is a size of 20 feet wall, which has curvilinear geometry and all sorts of things. I mean, so, but a typical average, I would say, an artwork would be like about a few lakhs to 3.5, 4.5, whatever. It also depends on the material that we want to use. 15 lakhs, 10 lakhs, it totally depends. If you're using a marble, CNC milling a marble, using that to create an artistic piece, it's a little more expensive than a wood or MDF, which you use, for example. So that is a quantifiable system, because when we develop the artwork, we obviously have to quantify the materiality, the machining time. In fact, design is actually free. So design is something which comes out of us anyway. Yeah. So I think that's the price point, I would say. But I would still say it's still a conventional system. If somebody comes and says ki I can spend $1 lakh on a table, then we have that project brief that it has to be designed within that. We can't do a very expensive stone and make that table, of course. But yes, why can't we come up with innovative ideas?
How you get these type of clients who have these, actually the mindset is very important before coming to you. I don't have any idea about parametric computational tools, but after getting things from you, now I'm prepared for the things. Next time should after that karna. So how you search the people, or how they contact you?
I don't know. Yeah, still we haven't cracked that out honestly, because I don't think we can say that. It's not been an easy journey. Obviously, today we've been talking about all the good things and the successes, there are a lot of failures that happen on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, and yearly basis of different kinds and magnitudes, of course, which we have to navigate and challenge. I won't say failure, but more like challenges.
Any failures which you hit you back from these things? You would like to share any project which hit
There
you
are
back?
so many, but I would not remember any, for the prime reason because we have a different mindset of taking failures as an opportunity to learn.
That actually happens. What the thing, the mindset. If see now what you are saying is, if you see and write on the paper, what you have achieved and what you are not, you are not remembering the things. This is God. Clear example of.
Yeah, I mean, so and that's how it is. And to be honest, it's a very difficult mindset to live with as well sometimes because you have to transpire that mindset to everyone around you in your ecosystem. Because there are challenges which people can't accept. People can't take let's say a client saying no to something, for example. Let's say your work is absolutely bad. I don't like this. How do you take that challenge? I personally would take that challenge as an opportunity that if I'm not able to convince person A, what is it going wrong in our offerings, let's say? Can we innovate? A simple thing would be for me to be drop that client and say, boss, आपको नहीं अच्छा लग रहा, छोड़ दो, ठीक है? But we never leave at that point. We would always give it another try, and my team knows that because we never give up on that, even if we personally are not aligned with that aspect.
Super.
Because principally we are not okay with that. Principally, and principles are things which set you up and set your organization up and set everyone around you. So that is extremely important. So stick true to the principles.
Got it.
Challenge is an opportunity. Failure is an opportunity. So if we develop that mindset and work, we're always doing the next thing, which we wouldn't have done otherwise if we wouldn't have failed.
But I have not got the answer from where you got the client for these type of things. What do you have inside?
That is one of the biggest challenge. So we are using that as an opportunity right now to understand how to do
I
clients.
am here for this.
Because see, as of now, I think it's all happened organically. I mean, we've been blessed in a sense that we haven't had to reach out to find work. But I would be lying and saying that it's always been like that. No, there are times when there are months and months, sometimes years as well, when there is no work. So that failure hits you.
Actually.
And that is difficult to survive. COVID time, for example. That's a simple example to give because that happened with many of the people.
Got it.
I'll tell you how we innovated that time. Okay, so a very interesting example. We used to do a lot of workshops. They were all physical workshops. COVID hit, we couldn't do any workshops. So we could go online. We created a conference, a global conference. I got 3 more people with me from different countries. So I was from India and we conceptualized a conference where we got someone from Turkey who has a media company, a very popular media company rather, I would say. A very known computational expert from US and another learned computational guru from Italy.
Okay.
And here we are doing computation in a country like India. I got all of them together to put them together into an idea that let's do an online sharing of information of what we all know.
Great.
We created a conference. It was called a CD Next, Computational Design Next.
Okay.
I left that entire group after I think 5 iterations of conference. Right now it's running 17th version or something. I think 2 of us moved out and 2 of them are still continuing that.
Okay.
And which is great because I see it as a product, as an idea which came out of our understanding during COVID time. And we had about, I think the first conference we had about 350 participants online. Then we had about 450 and the number kept on increasing. And we kept on hitting the number to the roof. And obviously everybody worked and contributed towards that. But so our goal of RATLAB education of doing physical workshops, because the workshop stopped, we created another chapter which is completely online. and created a set of conference. So that was like one thing.
Okay.
Another thing we did, we had started Smart Labs. I haven't spoken much about Smart Labs, but Smart Labs is a 6-month program that we typically do. So we do like one program every year, and now the frequency has been increasing. So it's a semester-long learning where we have only a few selected people. Typically, we now keep a batch of about 15-20 people max.
Okay.
And those are people who really are dedicated towards learning computational design.
Okay.
Because now the market, I would say, is flooded with a lot of information and workshops and knowledge.
100%.
So we decided that, okay, we will stop focusing on the smaller workshops. We still do that from time to time. And we are actually reinventing that into a very interesting manner. But Smart Labs sort of became my focal point as an educator, that I'm going to be dedicating my 6 months to these 15 people to make sure that they understand computational mindset.
Super.
In the process of doing that, we are mentoring them. In the process of doing them, we are teaching them a lot of soft skills. And then at the end of Smart Labs, we have an exhibition where we put the works together so they understand more soft skills to actually present their works as an artist as well. And it is a very interesting way that we are cultivating computation. We've had about 215 participants graduating out of Smart Labs in its 9 batches so far. The 10th batch is recently started from 78 cities across 19 countries.
Okay. Online.
It's all online.
The best part.
There are hybrid systems. There are studios where I have students from different cities. They come to the studio, they come to the workshop for the exhibition and some of the other sessions. But 80% of it is online.
Great.
And that shift happened after COVID. But even before COVID, Smart Labs had started in 2017. COVID had not even started. So the program was started as a hybrid program where it would be 50% online, actually 30% online, 70% offline. COVID shifted it to be the opposite of that. But the program was conceptualized as a hybrid when nobody knew the word hybrid.
Actually.
So that was the beauty of
after
it.
COVID,
After COVID, everybody understood, okay, this is how it has to function. And so I think every time there is a challenge, there is an opportunity to grow.
Correct.
So if we try to focus on that and we try to stay positive, which again is very easier said than done. It's not easy because in a localized manner, you have to navigate all of these failures and challenges and stress and everything. But yeah, so clients don't come to us that easily. There is a lot of convincing. Even the clients that comes to us and finds us through whatever medium, they would also grill us to the fact that we have to convince them that why are we good enough.
So I want to add one thing in this with you. So there is a huge opportunity. We are coming up with one brand, Nexabuild.
Right.
And Nexabuild, what Nexabuild do is we connect people.
Right.
And we specialize in construction industry.
Right.
100% construction industry.
Okay.
So there is no other industry in this, only construction. You will get verified suppliers, verified clients.
Right.
You can showcase your projects over there.
Right.
All the tools, what you are saying.
Yeah.
So this is the only website we are going to live in another few days.
Sure. No, that sounds fantastic. That sounds fantastic. And I think a platform like that will definitely, sort of sync different aspects of the construction and the design industry. And if you say the clients as well, because that's why people can sort of understand what people's expertise are.
The most important is verified clients.
Yeah.
Those who are looking for that things,
right,
you will get them.
Yeah. So that sounds interesting. That sounds like
amazing.
a good,
so we are trying to
next
cope up
step,
with
and we'll have to be a part of that.
After getting so much of things from you, let's do one thing. Let's start rapid fire questions. You have to answer them immediately.
Sure.
Great. So what's one Indian city architecture you are the admirer for the most?
Indian city. Okay.
Indian city architecture.
Let's put global city, because London is my favorite city, because that's where I sort of evolved. That's where I sort of did my masters and whatever. I know it's a rapid fire. I don't want to bring the story in, but London, because how it's adapting to a change globally. Indian city, I would say Mumbai. I'm still impressed with Mumbai. I know people hate Mumbai's architecture, but I still see a different kind of opportunities in Mumbai. So I admire Mumbai's architecture, how it's evolving.
When I entered in your studio, told my team that the concept of this is like Mumbai only.
Right.
They design Mumbai is designed like this.
Absolutely.
Only. You have used
tight on
every
space. You have to
step of-
efficiently use everything, every
Actually.
single looking corner in the best possible way, which is what we try to do.
So the next is 3D printing, CNC machines, or laser cutting. Which one is your favorite child?
CNC milling, I would say, because it has a lot of possibilities of what we can do with it at scale and with different materials. So CNC milling, and also again, like I told you at the beginning, I actually operated the machine also. So I have a knack for CNC milling.
Next, so your go-to snack while brainstorming any projects or any complex designs?
It's usually a coffee, a good cup of coffee. That's what does it for me. But that's the conscious part. The subconscious mind gets fed from experiences, which could be absolutely random, which could come from when you're not at work. So that's where networking, meeting other people, having conversations about different subjects away from your actual work actually helps you open up your subconscious mind. That's actually one of the conscious trick that you can do to open up your subconscious mind. Get away from your actual work. If you're not getting the solution, you might start to trigger ideas.
So you're going, after getting conversation with you, I'm thinking that you are going more over towards the spiritual thoughts, subconscious mind. You're doing the things like that way only. Getting all the things related
trying to. I think I'm in a phase right now where I'm evolving in a sense, or there's a conscious effort to evolve, to bring about a positive change.
Super.
So I think that is extremely important. So yeah, that works at different levels.
So I'm damn sure about that after doing these conversations. So what I'm thinking in my mind that whenever we do the next podcast, that will belong to the next spiritual architecture from you.
See, I don't know if I can talk about that. I'm not an expert yet, but I can tell you one thing. For me personally, it's very important to create an impact and a positive impact, which is what we're trying to do as a studio, as an industry, as a personal professional also, I can say. If for the next 1 week, the conversations that we have now start to trigger you at different times subconsciously, that means we had a good conversation. Actually, and that is what it is has to be all about.
Happened.
Yeah.
Great. As we discussed in the backstage, that you don't want to become an architect. So which profession you choose if you will not be, well, if you will not be an architect then?
I wanted to be a doctor, which is very weird. Sounds very different from what I do now. So I wanted to be a doctor.
Actually, you look like an architect. Your presence, your everything.
I don't know. I mean, I was a biology student. I took up science biology. I was preparing for medicine, pursuing medicine. But I mean, I did not get through in the entrance and everything. And also, architecture happened, which is again story for another day, I would say. But at one time I wanted to be a cricketer because I was very serious about cricket, playing cricket at school level and all sorts of things, and it still is very close to my heart. Then a doctor was a serious thing that I really wanted to do. I left cricket to focus on my studies, wanted to pursue medicine, but I ended up being an architect. But I think being an architect has opened up different avenues as an artist, and that's where photography happened to fit me. So I am very, very focused on photography. I've been pursuing photography for almost 20 years now.
Oh.
And I have done different sorts of photography, and not many people know about this, by the way. So if I start to document all my my photography is also very organized. I have the folders, subfolders, everything organized in my different hard disks of different shoots I've done. I used to shoot for a restaurant also at one time, for a very big club, Hard Rock Cafe, by the way.
Okay.
I used to go there at every gig, shoot the concerts, shot Parikrama, Indian Ocean, all of these bands, met a lot of musicians at that time. There was all out of my general stuff that I was doing. Early morning, going to different monuments and shooting the architecture of that. Even before I actually became a professional architect, I've done fashion shoots at different points in time in different countries. When I was in London, in LA as well, in India as well, a few of them. I've tried to shoot for a lighting company, architectural lighting in London. The passion still exists, and I do it from time to time. I have been exploring a lot of technologies in photography. how to create panoramas, how to create spherical panoramas, how to create vertoramas, vertical and horizontal mixed. So whenever I'm traveling, I would usually take a lot of photos from the flight of the clouds and stitch those photos together into a spherical panorama. So that's where I use different apps and techs to do that. Previously, 15 years back, I was doing the same thing manually by printing those photos and then trying to put them together to understand. And that is also where mathematics comes into the picture. How do you create a sphere and stitch photos? Understanding about geometry, latitudes, longitudes. So that's when I got intrigued with panoramas. So now, obviously, I don't have much time to do photography. I still do that from time to time, take up small assignments just for fun. I never shoot my own projects though. But yeah, I'm trying to shoot on the go a lot of times. Obviously, I don't carry my DSLR now, but I have a lot of kits being built over certain years, a lot of lenses that I collected. It all started with an analog camera and then moved on to digital.
Lots of things after
it's away from architecture. Like I said at the beginning, that I'm wearing different hats and different personalities at time, I would say, in a sense. So yeah, photography is very close to me. And that's something that I continue to pursue in bits and parts, I would say. So if I was not an architect, the rapid question was not that rapid though. Sorry for that. But it took us into a different narrative. But yeah, I would have liked to be a photographer full time.
Yeah, actually we are getting lots of things in the one question from you. So the weirdest client request ever you have got?
Oh, lots of them. We get it like on a daily basis. The weirdest is, I don't know, weirdest would be free mein kar do. That's the weirdest. But that's the thing, and I'm sure everyone gets that. Like, free mein kar do, pehle design bana do, fir dekhenge, you know, types, all sorts of things. I mean, they come up with their own narratives, which is really funny. It's insulting and funny in together, you know. But again, I think that is one thing. And second weirdest request I would still say is सबसे अलग चाहिए लेकिन ऐसा पहले हुआ होना चाहिए. And that is again a weird request. I want something out of the world, but have you done this before?
And when you come,
so we have to tell them, nobody, we haven't done this before, but we trust our innovation. So you come to us for an innovation that we will innovatively design your project or your space or whatever. Then yes, then we are the right team to work together. And when I say a team, a client and a designer are actually a team. A lot of times clients don't understand that. And a lot of times clients come up with a mindset that they are buying a product. They're not buying a product, they're buying a service. So they need to understand us, we need to understand them. And I think it will take a few more years to figure that out, how to get to that level, I would say. But that's something that I'm personally trying to change and approach in our work. But yeah, I think still the weirdest, the top of the list would be free mirror though.
Free mirror. Always first answer.
Do it for free, it will add to your portfolio. And then you tell them that how did you reach out to us? He said, I saw your talk. I saw your TEDx talk on YouTube. And then I read your articles. And then I saw all your work. And then we came to you. And then even after that, you're telling me I should do for free so that it adds to my portfolio. So that's where it gets weird at times. But at the end of the day, you also have to think that they are a person who are trying to buy something for themselves. So for us, for them, we are a product in the sense. So we have to innovate that as an opportunity also to convince them and educate them then why it can't be for free. So yeah.
So you are not one, you are not two, you are 3 TEDx talks. So it's like influencing things. How you manage? What do you feel after this?
In fact, there are 4 TEDx talks I've given. Fourth one is not out on YouTube yet. That was done, I think, a few years back. My first TEDx talk was 2016 when it happened.
Okay.
Why I and how I navigated myself to be able to speak on stage, despite the fact that I have stage fright, a lot of stage fright. From 0 to 10, my stage fright was 9.
Okay.
It's still 9. But it's hidden. You will see it as 1 now. That's the work that had to be done on myself. And the fact that I have done 4 TEDx talks, I mean, I don't see it as an accomplishment or something, honestly. But the first TEDx talk, when it happened, and when it got published on YouTube, I realized that this is creating an impact. And if I'm able to create a positive impact, which I was anyway trying to do with my education vertical, if I'm able to create a larger impact to people, to inspire them to follow a certain path, then why not? That I need to feel honored about being in that space, and I need to work harder. So when the second TEDx talk I was invited to, I saw it as an opportunity and actually gave a very personal narrative. I'm not a professional speaker. I would not call myself, and that's not something I want to be also. But yes, I had to work myself in a way that I could manage to be giving a lot of talks. And outside of the TEDx opportunities that I got, I had been speaking to a lot of colleges because of my education vertical, because I had to create that impact.
Great.
And I had to find that confidence in myself to go on the stage and speak to 1,000 students to start with, and tell them what are we doing and why this is important, so that at least some of them follow that journey and path. So it's all about that journey, I would say.
Superb. So before we sign off, I'm seeing this book from so long that I would like to ask you about this book.
Yeah, so this is my first published book, which was published a couple of years back. It's called Scalable Tectonics, Speculative Futures, Stories from the Future.
Okay.
That's the tagline of this. And it was co-authored by Suhail Salaman, who was one of my students in an online workshop, who was very keen on writing and a very talented person rather. And she was in Dubai, and we sort of collaborated to sort of work on this together. And so
It looks so amazing book.
yeah, so I mean it was an outcome of what we were trying to do in that particular workshop with a lot of students, and we did a lot of interviews with a lot of people who are prominent names in computational design world to sort of decode what parametric and computational design is, and that's what we were trying to document.
Great.
And that's another hat that I've been trying to wear, I would say, because this was my third book, but the first published book. My first book I started in 2012, which is still unpublished.
What is the reason why you got to publish?
So I have not been 100% creatively satisfied with the output, because of which I just continued to iterate quite a few times. That is one part, but that we managed to solve. The second part is, the book is titled as Rise of Technology in Architecture.
Okay.
And when we started, the technologies were different. In fact, last year only, I had to rewrite the preface of that book and add this note that when we started this book, AI did not exist. Today, AI exists.
Correct.
And we actually writing one chapter of that book using AI now. And that's how we are going to finish that book. So the technologies have evolved faster than what we imagined.
Superb.
So because the design technologies kept on evolving, it's at the final point where it will be out hopefully in 2025. And there's another book which we started and finished in COVID time, but we never published it because the tools started to move a little faster. We held us back.
A lot inside you.
A lot has happened in these 5 years with the change of technology. And the second book is called Mastering the Tools, how to really master different tools of computational design. That is more of an educational book, an academic book rather, where people can actually learn softwares in different ways. And both of these books are 95% complete, and we're just trying to finish that at the last leg right now. Hopefully 2025 both will be out. In between, after those two books, this third book happened, and we launched it and published it at that time itself. And 2020 or 21 it was launched. And currently also conceptualized and writing another book which is currently titled as Flirting with Design Technologies, which sort of navigates and documents the entire 10 years of our work which we've been doing at RATLAB Studio and putting that out.
So where you are seeing yourself in the next 10 years?
Oh, I don't know the next 10 minutes. So it's hard to say about 10 years actually.
Long-term expectation.
I think again, like I said, there's a transformation that is happening right now with me as a person in terms of understanding spirituality and all sorts of things, let's say. So I would say I don't think ahead of the curve in that sense, that what I want to see. I just feel that I would like to see myself still innovating and still trying to find the answers. And that's what we are chasing. And that's something which is a process, which is an evolution. Philosophically, yes, this is what we want to do and want to continue to do. As a studio, and a little materialistically talking, as a design studio, we would have liked to have made a much larger impact than what we have until now. Until now, we have sort of managed to sort of bring about a change in the industry, but we would like to bring a more positive change in the built environment, the kind of buildings, the kind of things that we see around, the kind of spaces that we see around, and see more of our built work coming out in the next couple of years. So that is what we are obviously focused towards.
All right.
And yeah, that's where we are headed.
Perfect. So before we sign off, Sushant, I would ask you one last question. So what advice would you give to aspiring client, architect, interior designers or juniors as you are an educator? So
yeah,
last advice.
So I would suggest, I don't know, just focus on your principles and build a nice foundation. That's extremely important. So everybody has to have a foundation, and that is where your principles are formed. So no matter what profession you are in, actually this advice is a very common advice for all the young people or evolving people. I would say that you gotta focus on your foundation and get that right. Put in the hard work, learn the skills, learn the tools, learn the technologies that are required at the right time, and keep building on it and keep learning, and don't stop learning, because that is what is going to lead to innovation. Because whatever you're learning today is subconsciously being added in your 11 acre of space. For those who don't know what 11 acre of space, need to understand what we spoke about earlier.
Amazing.
And that is what it is all about. So focus on your basics, keep upskilling, and I think just be intuitive in your process. Don't be hard on yourself, but work hard is all I say. I mean, I think I'm getting a little old to talk things like that, but yeah, I mean, working hard is absolutely important.
I think if you're talking like that way, but before, if anyone asks you about your age, then someone says, "Oh, yeah, experience hoga."
Yeah.
This question also.
Yeah, we will keep the age factor out. I think it's easy for people to figure that out with the information that is available online now.
Perfect. So don't forget to check out the RATLAB. I am completely blown away after getting all these things insights from Sushant. I'm really happy and really blissful from him after meeting you. It's nice meeting you.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a fun chat.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Take care.